Hello there, and welcome to Chita Diaries. It has been a hot minute, almost 2 months since I began my vegan challenge. It was only supposed to be for a month in October, and I filmed some footage, but life happened, and here we are now. Apologies. But in case you're new, I did a vegan challenge in the month of October, and I will just be sharing with you some recipes of what I cooked during that week. And before we begin, my vegan YouTube channel shout out for this video goes to Shoemaker. I absolutely love her content, vegan or not. And if you like, mostly healthy but easy recipes, definitely do check her out. So for breakfast, I wanted to make myself some banana bread because I absolutely love it, and Caitlin happens to have a recipe. So these were the ingredients that I needed. So I have some bananas there, some oats, some sugar, some peanut butter. I chose chia seeds, baking soda, baking powder, vanilla essence, some salt, and some apple cider vinegar. So for starters, I needed to make an egg. So I had the option of flax seeds or chia seeds, and I went with chia seeds. So I made sure that I ground them as best as I could in a blender. So I used 2 teaspoons like the recipe called for, and added 2 tablespoons of ground chia seeds and 6 tablespoons of water. Then I just mixed it and put it aside to let it kind of rise and have the consistency of an egg, as you will see soon. So the next thing I did was I had to grind about 2 cups of Jungle Oats, and I'm sorry, but you will need a food processor for this, for this recipe. Like a blender wasn't doing it. So that's 2 cups of Jungle Oats that I ground with 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, and half a teaspoon of salt. And then I also added half a cup of just whole oats on their own without grinding them, as the recipe instructed us to do. By the way, everything will be listed in the description box if you want more clarity. So the next thing I needed to do was mash up some very ripe bananas, which is what I did. And in retrospect, I could have done a better job with mashing those bananas, but alas. Then I added a quarter of a cup of peanut butter. She said any nut or seed butter, and I had peanut butter in me, so that is what I used. And then I added half a cup of brown sugar. Her recipe said coconut sugar, but I could substitute it with brown sugar. And then I added 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar and 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence. And this is what my chia seed egg was looking like now. And I added it to my mixture, and then I realized that the bowl was too small, so I had to transfer it to the bigger one, and I mixed everything from there. And like I said, I could have done a way better job with mashing those bananas. So once they were mashed, I began to incorporate the dry ingredients, and I was folding it in, not really like mixing it aggressively, but folding it in as one should when they're making a cake, any cake. And I did that until I was done with the dry ingredients. And I just love watching cake batter. It's very satisfying. So the next thing I did was I lined a baking loaf, because I was making bread and not a cake per se. So this was non-stick baking parchment paper, so I didn't have to grease it. And I just added that in. And because Caitlin, added some bananas on top to make it look prettier, I attempted to do the same, even though it didn't turn out, like she had done on her blog post and her video, but I still tried. So I added some bananas just to decorate the top of the banana bread. And I put this in a preheated oven, so 175 degrees Celsius for, she said, 60 to 70 minutes. So I must have left it in the oven initially for an hour. And this was an hour later, and I did the knife test to see if it would come out clean, to check if it was ready. And it wasn't, as you could tell, like there was still bits sticking to the knife at the end there. So I put it back in the oven for about another 10 to 15 minutes. It's been 2 months, so I'm just guessing here, but I think it was about 10 to 15 minutes. And this is what it was looking like after that. And I did the knife test again. It wasn't like 100% clean. It was like 90% clean, but I just, yeah, like I let it be as it was in that moment. So Caitlin said we were supposed to put it aside for 10 minutes and then remove it from the loaf tin and transfer it onto a rack to cool completely. So we weren't supposed to leave it in there, like overnight or something to cool. She advised that we make sure we remove it and put it on a baking rack. So when I was playing this back, I have no idea what I was going through that day, but this was all sorts of randomness. Please don't be like me and find a better way of transferring your loaf onto the rack. But I didn't even know what was going on, but I just chose to risk it all. Don't be like me, please. Find like a safer way of transferring your loaf onto the cooling rack. And this isn't a cooling rack, as you can see. I just made do with what I had. So I let it cool overnight. And this banana bread, by the way, was really, really chewy. It was very thick. At first I was like, do I like this? It was a lot, like it was very overwhelming, especially the taste of peanut butter and banana. I like those two things, so it was something that I could bear, but for other people you might not like it. But anyways, it was nice that first time. I would recommend for you to try it, but it's not something that I would call comfort food. And for me, banana bread is comfort food. So I tried to make banana cake, with my regular recipe that's non-vegan, and I just substituted eggs with ground flaxseed. This time I made a flax egg, and then I used soy milk, and what else? And yeah, so I used vegan fat spread. Huge mistake, because I couldn't find any vegan butter, and you cannot substitute fat spread for butter or margarine. Like, it just changes the texture. And then I realized that just in case it didn't rise properly, I shouldn't put it in a loaf. I chose a cake tin instead, just so that there wouldn't be that much effort involved in the cake rising, just in case it didn't. So yeah, for the non-vegans who are watching this and just love to support my videos, I will leave a link to the original recipe. You're welcome. But yeah, I tried this anyways. I'm glad I did. And yeah, I shouldn't have just tried to veganize something. I should just look for specific vegan banana cake recipes, that are more comforty. And this was the finished result. So the outside was cooked and everything, but it was kind of fudgy, and not in a good way. Like, it was still edible and the like, but it was too fudgy. Like, it didn't bake and rise the way that I wanted it to. So yeah, that's that about my breakfast. So for lunch, I wanted to meal prep for the week, and I went for a pasta dish, and I just customized, one of the multitude, like one of the many pasta dishes that she has. So I heated up some oil, and I fried some red onion and some garlic. I then added some chopped carrots and fried or sauteed that for a bit as well. And then once that was done, I used this brand of soya mince, and I honestly should have just used half of the pack, but yeah, if you know, like if you've been watching my videos, you know how random I am. I just dunked the whole thing in there, and I actually regretted it. I only needed to use half of that pack, and the rest of the ingredients could have stayed the same in terms of measurements, but I should have only used half of a pack. So I transferred the everything to a pot because the pan was too small. So I just tried to mix everything at that point, and then now I added my seasoning. So I got 1 teaspoon of paprika and added it to that, and then some steak and chop spice as well, 1 teaspoon, some Italian herb seasoning, a teaspoon, and I mix that in, and I added some tomato puree or tomato paste, and because there was so much, I used 3 tablespoons, but you can never have too much tomato puree, so it's fine even if you use half of the mince, half of the soya mince. And I mixed that in. I then added a full tin of chopped and peeled tomatoes. And mix that in. And I added, well, in total 2 cups of water, but 1 at a time, and it was really, really, really thick. Oh my days. And then because it was so thick, I didn't realize that the bottom was burning. So if you see some dark bits, that's what that was. I am so sorry. Well, sorry to myself, because I'm the one who had to eat it. It was slightly charred, like slightly, not entirely. It was still edible. It had flavor and everything. But yeah, but I won't deny that, the bottom part was slightly charred. So after simmering, that's what it looked like. And I just added some salt to taste, I believe, at this point. Yeah, and I was done. And then I just, stirred that in and then covered it and put it aside. So I was done with the soy mince. So to go with the mince, I decided to cook some pasta, like I mentioned, because this is the pasta dish. So I just added some oil and some salt to a pot of water and let it boil. Then once it had boiled, I chose this type of pasta, so like the swirly kind of pasta, and I used 500 grams. So like I said, even with half the size of the mince, you can still use a full pack of, pasta. And I was supposed to cook it uncovered for 8 minutes, but I low-key got carried away and ended up cooking it for like, I think 10 to 12 minutes, which was too long, and it was kind of soft. So don't be like me. Make sure you try and cook it, al dente for a maximum of 8 minutes, because it was kind of way too soft. So I drained the pasta, put it back in the pot, and I now added the soy mince that I had cooked. So it was way too much to add in there, and I think I used about 2/3 of what I had cooked, and it was still a lot. Like, as you will see in a few seconds, the pasta ended up drowning in the mince. But it is what it is. And yeah, that was my pasta dish with soy mince. And to accompany this, I wanted to make some creamy spinach, but a vegan version. Yeah, so I added a bit of water to a pot, and I added some seasoning. So I went with some garlic powder or crushed garlic, and I added about a teaspoon. I added a teaspoon of that to the pot, and I then got some brown onion seasoning and added half a teaspoon, as well as some white pepper. and some salt, I believe. So for the white pepper, the white pepper, the salt, and the brown seasoning, it was just half a teaspoon, not a full teaspoon. And then I mixed that and added my spinach. I cannot for the life of me remember how much spinach I used because, like I said, it's been 2 months. Apologies, but this was, I think, a medium-sized pot or a small pot, and it must have been like one bunch. Like if you're Zambian, like the regular spinach bunches that we get. So I just washed it and like chopped it into large pieces, and yeah, I think it was like one bunch of spinach. And I just cooked it for a bit until it had shrunk. And I added some soy milk as my creamer to make it creamy and everything. But as you will see, like it didn't thicken the way I wanted it to, unfortunately. But yeah, anyways, you see in a bit. So I added some soy milk to that. I think that was just a quarter of a cup. And I let that cook on medium or low heat just for a bit, just to make it simmer and for it to hopefully thicken. But with spinach, like you really shouldn't overcook spinach because it becomes really, really soggy. So I didn't cook it for long. And yeah, I realized that it wasn't going to thicken the way I wanted it to, so I just stopped here and I drained some of that excess liquid and served it as it was. And this was my final result. It was actually okay, I definitely wasn't thinking I'm eating meat, like actual like minced meat. My mouth knew that this was soy pieces, but it was okay. It tasted okay. I would encourage you to try it. Definitely customize it to whatever makes you happy or your taste, but it was okay. I ate it, it was edible, and my tummy was full. I was happy with this lunch. So for dessert, I wanted to make this sorbet that I had seen online. I've never made sorbet myself, but I do like to eat it. So the recipe, the lady in the video said to one portion of sugar, add half a portion of water and make yourself a syrup. That is what I did. I don't know if the sugar I used was coarse, but it wasn't looking like the video. And again, I will leave a link in the description for you so you can check it out. Like a video looks so nice. I encourage you guys to try it. Maybe, like it will work out for you. But this syrup just wasn't looking like it was supposed to. And yeah, I poured it into a cup after I had, cooked it or attempted to make a syrup. And then idiot me at some point touched it just to feel its consistency, and I swear it felt like I had burnt the DNA off of my fingertips. It hurt. I was actually scarred for like a week or so. So don't be like me. Though I feel like I'm the only person who would be that stupid to touch hot sugar. So yeah, I ended up not using this sugar syrup. Like it just wasn't looking as light and flowy as it was supposed to. So I abandoned it. And in a couple of seconds, you see what I mean. Like it just crystallized so quickly. Like it didn't make any sense to me. And there was no way I could add it to my actual sorbet. So from that sorbet video, she had about 5 and I chose the berry one. So I had bought these frozen berries, and I think at the time that I was making it, they had been in my freezer for a couple of weeks, and it was this brand, quite expensive, I must say, but I really wanted to make myself sorbet. And they were, I believe, what was that? Yes, 350 grams. So that was the size of this, and it was frozen. Like that particular day when I was making it, I forgot or maybe just didn't think that I needed to defrost it. And then I tried to use my food processor. Again, this is something you cannot use in a blender. I'm so sorry. You need a food processor. And I almost broke it with my idiocy. So yeah, and then I also didn't want to wait for it to defrost because I had stuff to do. So I instead added just like some water, which was like a bad decision, but I was kind of impatient, and that helped with kind of softening it and making it break up into smaller chunks that would be easier for the food processor to work with. And I just kept checking on it and breaking down that like ice bit as much as I could throughout the process. And then I added maple syrup because the berries definitely were not sweet. Like you would need some sort of syrup or something to sweeten it. So I went with maple syrup, but I don't think it made much of a difference. It was still like, okay, it tasted a bit sour at the end of it, but I made my peace with it. And I just continued to try and break that, that icy bit as I was going, and I kept blending and blending and blending in a food processor, not a blender, because yeah, like it will not work out. So yeah, I continued to blend and I tried to get it as smooth as possible. It didn't look like what I wanted it to look like, unfortunately, but yeah. It was as close as I was going to get to making myself a sorbet that day, and this was the final result. So I opted to put it in the freezer. You can eat it straight away, but I wanted it, to just solidify a bit more, so I put it in a lunchbox or a container, and I must have left it for at least an hour, like an hour or two, and this was the final result. And I'm sorry, I don't own like cute dessert bowls. I only have cereal bowls, so I put this in a teacup. Apologies, but yeah, this was my sorbet. It tasted okay. Like it was kind of sour, but I enjoyed it even in its sourness, and I hope to try this again in the future and do it right. So for dinner, I just used like the leftovers from lunch, but I first made just a quick side salad. If you watch my previous video, like you know what the deal is here. I just used whatever leftover vegetables I had. So here there's cucumber, carrots, green pepper, and tomatoes, and I added some chia seeds on top, and my vegan salad dressing. Oh, plus some salt to taste there. Okay, there we go. There's the salad dressing that's vegan. And I just added that, and when I was playing this back, I realized that I added way too much, but it is what it is. And I just mixed that up, and that was my side salad. So I heated up. Did I heat up or toast? I think I lightly toasted, some pita bread, and I added, my leftover soy mince as my filling. Like I was being very lazy that day. Like that's all I added. I could have put the vegetables in the middle, actually, come to think of it, but on that particular day, all I added was the soy mince on the pita bread, and I left one plain, and then I added some sweet chili sauce to the other one, just for variety and to see which I like better. But even just plain was fine on its own. So yeah, like it wasn't too bad. And this was it. This was my third week, or part of what I ate during the third week of my vegan challenge. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is just a recap of everything that I've shared with you. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.